welcome to Astrology Breakdown. I'm Journey Ryan, filling in for Squirrel. She's out on assignment tonight, so we are going to have a great time. But that doesn't mean I'm here alone, because there is another host of this beautiful show, and it is Innerji. What's going on, Innerji?
Hi, I'm really good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Are you ready to play in the sky?
I'm ready to play in the sky. I've been dancing on it all week. As you know, I've been like dropping tidbits all over the place when we're working in the back and doing all that stuff. So looking forward to talking to everybody and getting a chance to see what's going on. So guys, if you are tuning into this show, do remember this is an astrology show. If you'd like to get a psychic read tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, Bunny Sugars will be available to take calls. And then at 10 p.m., our wonderful squirrel will be back to get those beautiful answers from the forest for you. So if you guys have a psychic question, you guys can head over there for that. Or you can go to mypsychicconnection.com where you guys can get readings from the psychics 24/7. And if you are a new member to My Psychic Connection, you automatically get 3 free minutes and you can use those to talk to the psychic of your choice. So good deal. Great psychics. Check it out. You can find myself and all the other psychics here at My Psychic Connection over there on the platform, and plus some psychics you haven't seen before. We've got psychics on the website over there that have not made it over to the radio and our live podcast and our live shows here on YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and Twitter, or it's X now, I think. So all the other places that you can get a podcast or a live, we're there, guys. You guys can hear us on Audible, iHeartRadio. We've got a slew. We're on 190 platforms.
We're everywhere.
Everywhere that platforms can be. So if you guys have any questions about some of the things that we're talking about, we're going to break into some transits. Innerji is going to talk a little bit about the transits, but we've got some things in store for you guys. I mean, we all love TikTok. We go there, we watch our funny videos, and then we check out other things that people are saying. And trust me, I've got some things to say. It has been boiling. I'm like, man, I cannot wait for Astrology Breakdown. Oh man, I've been waiting.
I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
The things I've saw, the things I heard, I was like, do you know how to do math? Your math isn't mathing.
Math has always been a struggle for me.
Well, you know, we have to. I always say you educate yourself before you tell the world what you know, because you know we all have these amazing devices we call cell phones. They got Google, they've got Bing, they've got Siri, they've got don't say that too loud. Yep, I already did. Okay, so but there's so many devices where we can look and gather the information in which we're seeking. So and Maylin says, I'm a Taurus. Ooh, that's a good sign. I like a Taurus.
Yay.
They are
solid and reliable.
Reliable, yes, most definitely. Very good person. Very, very good to have like work with you, and that reliability really just pays off in as a Taurus. But before we go diving in to all your guys' signs and things, and we've got some things to talk about, and you guys can join in if you guys are here in the conversation and you have something you would like to share about the conversation in which we're having. Be open, communicate. That's what the chat is for you guys, so you guys can join in and be a part of the breakdown. Usually these breakdowns, they fly so quickly. There's always so much going on, and usually we got Squirrel here with us having a good time breaking things down, because you know she's one of our astrology queens here. No one talks astrology like Squirrel does. Now Innerji does too. She talks astrology just as well. She likes to hide it sometimes, but I like to pull it out of her so she can sparkle, because she's amazing at it as well. And you know, I don't know if you guys have checked out the mythology of astrology on our YouTube channel, where Squirrel broke down all the signs and gave you guys the mythology of each and every one of those signs. Now we are going to put a group together on the website for you guys to watch all of those if you are interested. But you can go to the YouTube channel, look for Mythology of Astrology, and you guys can find those 1-hour clips of these beautiful stories. I mean, no one tells a story like Squirrel. I mean,
she's a natural. She's a natural.
When she tells the story, you feel like you're living it.
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
see the pictures in my head. I can feel the emotion going through. It's absolutely amazing. And like I said, no one tells a story like Squirrel on that.
No.
All right. So we're going to get down to some transits and some things that are coming on this week and a little bit of what to look out for or just to be aware of. And we're going to go ahead and let energy take that ball right there.
Okay, so let's have a look at what's happening. So what we've got happening, we've just had Venus move into Capricorn. That happened on the 23rd of January, so just the other day, depending on where you live in the world. And so now that we've got that Venus in Capricorn, Venus is about relationships. It's about our heart, our feelings. But most people don't realize Venus is also about money because of its relationship to being the ruler of the second house. So Venus for you being in Capricorn is about taking relationships a little bit more seriously whilst we're in this Venus in Capricorn season. It's about looking at serious relationships, not those little fly-by-night ones that we sometimes have. And it's also looking about how you manage your money. The other thing I wanted to say about Venus in Capricorn is that from the outside looking in, this is an energy that can feel a little less lovey-dovey, a little more cool, but it doesn't mean that the emotion isn't there. It's just that it's shown in a more practical way, because the energy of Capricorn, which is that cardinal earth, so it's practical, it's strategy, it's planning, it's, what do I want to achieve? It's ambition and being seen. And so it kind of flavors that lovely, fluffy, soft, beautiful romantic energy and loving energy of Venus. So it kind of cools it down a little bit. So don't think while we're in this Venus and Capricorn season, if you have, say, a Capricorn in your life, then, don't think that they're pulling back from you necessarily. It could be they're just showing their feelings in a different way. Now, the other thing that's going on is we have the Sun square Jupiter. And with that Sun square Jupiter, squares are about challenges. So the Sun and Jupiter are challenging each other. So Jupiter is about being optimistic. It's about being adventurous, getting out there, trying new things, generosity, optimism. And so with the Sun squaring that, the Sun being that sort of life energy, that core energy, it means that you can be a little bit too optimistic sometimes with this square. I know that sounds nuts, but sometimes being so optimistic about something that you cannot see the reality of it, you cannot see the boundaries of it. So just be a little bit careful that you are bringing together, keeping that wonderful optimism, but keeping it within the boundaries of reality. And that means that you will be less disappointed and not put yourself out on a limb quite so much. The other thing I wanted to talk about was Venus trine Jupiter. Trining means that they get along. It's a very positive relationship. And Venus and Jupiter, this is about making you feel good in relationships. So we've got Venus in Capricorn, where it's a bit more practical, but then with that Venus in Jupiter energy, it's also making people feel good about themselves as well, particularly loved ones that are close to you. So this is kind of like, I kind of think of this energy as a bit like an extended hug with that Venus loving energy, and then with that trine in Jupiter expanding out. The other things I wanted to talk about, I'm not going to talk too much about this because we talked about it last week. We've got a number of sextiles to Saturn. So we've got Jupiter sextile Saturn. We've got, what else have we got sextiling Saturn? We've got Jupiter. We also have Venus. So we talked about those last week. So I'm not going to go into those too much tonight, other than to say sextiles are about bringing in opportunities. So again, it's expansion in a positive way. Now, the other big one that's coming up is the full moon coming up in Leo, and that occurs on the 25th of January, so that's Thursday, the 25th of January, and it occurs at 12:55 p.m., and that is Eastern Standard Time. Full moons. What does it mean when we have a full moon? Well, I'm going to give you a little visual. We have a full moon, and it's opposite the sun, which is in Leo. So the sun, which is moon is in Leo, in the sky. So what that's saying with a full moon is like there's a push-pull between the two opposing signs. But this full moon in Leo is a fun full moon. Leo is about fun and pleasure. This is a leadership. These people are natural leadership. So if you've got Leo in your chart, you kind of want to take charge a little bit. You also don't mind being seen and putting yourself out there, but you do, for the most part, do it in a fun and jovial way. So if you're a person who follows the phases of the moons and does your own thing around, say, rituals or meditations, whatever it is, this full moon in Leo is about being out there, putting yourself out there, opening up more emotionally. And with this full moon in Leo, I'm also seeing that this is a great opportunity to play a little bit more. Let's face it, the world has been really serious, hasn't it? And so this gives you the opportunity to play a little bit more, to bring the joy back. The sun rules Leo. So, you know, you want to bring that life back in. You want to bring the joy back in. So that's a few of the things that are happening. Now, of course, last week we spoke about Pluto moving into Aquarius at 0 degrees.
Boy.
Oh boy, have we got stuff to talk about around that. So we know that Pluto is in Aquarius for about 21 years. That doesn't account for a retrograde that is going to be happening. And that retrograde occurs May 2nd this year at 2 degrees Aquarius, 6 minutes. It goes retrograde in Aquarius, but then it drops back into Capricorn, because what does retrograde mean? It means to move backwards, or it appears to move backwards. So Pluto's going to go back into Capricorn for a while, and it's going to stay in Capricorn until the 11th of October. Again, depending where you are in the world. And that will occur at 29 degrees Capricorn, 38 minutes. So it's almost like, as we spoke about last week, there's kind of this push-pull. We're kind of going into Aquarius, which is opening up to new technologies, new ideas, etc. But then we're back into Capricorn, which are the boundaries, the tradition. And so again, we're going to feel uncomfortable about it. Now, a lot of people have been talking about the age of Aquarius. So I'm going to invite Joni to come back on, because that's our topic tonight, isn't it? The ages in astrology.
So when you were talking about the planet Pluto going into Aquarius, this is where I was talking about the TikTok thing, where we have a lot of people talking about, oh, because Pluto is going into Aquarius on the 20th of January, and now I've heard the 22nd, the 21st, the 26th. It is the 20th, so that has passed. We're 4 days in. This is not the age of Aquarius. Just because Pluto goes in, and hearing these missteps, like, now this one will get you, this one will make you chuckle. The gentleman said, well, for the last 16 years, Pluto was in Capricorn. I was like, it's 21 years around. That one doesn't get less time just because it's Capricorn. That's not how that works. It's still the same long journey across the solar system. So when we're listening to these, Squirrel's word for it is pop astrologers. Be careful about the information. Make sure that the person who is communicating with you is doing the math. Because we're so easy to hear somebody that they are talking about something that you may not understand or you may not know, and they do trigger on some things that you're aware of, and they're like, oh yeah, that matches, but is their math correct? So there's a lot of things. Now we've got a lot of astrologers that are known astrologers that are arguing about what age we're living in. And so the age of Pisces started in 1 AD, and it takes 4,000 years for us to go through an age. And that's the case. We are not in the age of Aquarius, but the age of Pisces, which makes a lot of sense, because we're in a time where people are really starting to vocalize who they are. They're not scared of their emotions in that sense. If they feel victimized, they're going to speak up and say something. So that really tunes to Pisces than it does Aquarius, because Aquarius doesn't show their feelings quite that way, and they do not express now they are very smart planners, so they won't show their cards. They're not going to show you their cards. You're going to play a guessing game with an Aquarius, but they make great leaders, amazing management teams. They always have a good plan. They have a way in and a way out if a way out is needed. So they always know the direction in which they're going to go in. So that's really good about Aquarius. Oh,
And
and
they're,
go ahead.
also wonderful. They're also wonderful advocates. Think
Yeah,
of people who are like Greenpeace, making the world a better place. They're not rebellious for the sake of just being rebellious, like maybe a teenager would be. They're rebellious and they're standing up for a cause, for a reason. And
and
that's really important too, with that fixed air energy that they are.
that rebellious stage in which you're talking about is right now we're like in the teenage years of Pisces, where we are starting to rebel. You're seeing a lot of rebellion. And, if you look at past, like you were talking about history, you can see where we get to those certain parts where the rebellion starts to show in each sign, because each sign has a rebellion, but they're all different. And you can see that in history. And I love that you brought that up earlier. We were talking in the back. We can't help ourselves. We just can't help
As,
it.
as we do, as we do.
I mean,
And
if
that
we
does
recorded those sessions, I mean, they would be great.
They could be very interesting. And that's what it brings us in. And Alison says, I suck in both those areas, lol. I mean, laugh out loud.
That's when you were talking about the love and you were talking about Venus and the money and
Yeah.
yeah, so she brought that up at that point. Now, guys, if you have anything you guys like to add to what we're talking about, don't hesitate to throw a little chat out there because we love communicating with you guys and talking about these things. And if you like what you hear here, go over to journeyryanlive.com/reviews and write us an amazing review. We have a contest going on when it comes to um, the reviews. The person who's posted the most reviews on these shows is going to win an astrological reading right here on the network. So now, mind you, we will not be airing your personal information, but we will be talking about your chart. And this will give you an idea. I really believe that people should have birth charts done when they're born.
Yeah, I agree. It just gives a sense of direction. It gives a sense of what are the strengths of that person as they develop and mature through their lives. And
Yeah,
it also gives a sense of, well, we all have strengths and weaknesses, no matter who we are. We all have our strengths and we all have I like to use the word challenges. And so as we grow in life and we know what our challenges are, we're better prepared to be able to deal with them in the most positive,
right.
effective way, rather than dealing with them in a reactive, sort of non-thinking way. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
absolutely makes sense. And so when we were talking prior before we got into the chart making thing, because we're going to be looking out for those reviews, guys. So make sure that you're giving myself or Innerji or Skwirl a review. We'll be happy to see that. We're all three of us are here on Astrology Breakdown. I'm usually on here as the bubble. That's because I'm doing a million other things in the back trying to make things work. And but I love John. We had such a great when we first started talking about Aquarius and Pluto. We were talking about the things that were going on and how that's going to affect the world. And with Squirrel that was talking about the industries, the big industries,
Yes.
and how that was going to affect the world. We really got into some deep conversations. But talking back on Pluto, the so the map that I have followed, when we go into the age of Aquarius, it will be 2150. So it'll be around March 21st, 2150. So all the people that are on the planet today, including the fetuses in the bodies at this exact moment, will not be here for that age. But you should be proud to be in the age that you are. So there's a reason for you, because you know what? The things that you do, even the little steps that you do, is actually giving energy to someone else. It's making someone see something. You're giving, you living your life, someone's watching. There's always someone watching. And especially in a day and age where we've got TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all these things, everybody's recording all the time. So this is always going to be documented for future generations to look back and go, wow, look at how different things are compared from then, and what they've learned, what they gave us as knowledge, and what we can become. And Pisces really sets the standard to get us there to live in that age of Aquarius. It's helping us because we're going to go through the emotional mess, and then the age of Aquarius is going to be like, okay, I can sort this out.
Yeah, and what it is, we'll be moving from mutable water, which is
Yeah.
Pisces. So that's sort of emotional exploration is one way I like to look at it. It's also not liking boundaries. And if you look at what's been happening, during this age of Pisces that we are in at the moment, there has been a lot of breaking down of emotional boundaries. Just look how much more accepting, for the most part, we are becoming around differentiation of gender. It's no longer just masculine, feminine. We have masculine, feminine, non-binary. We have different ways of feeling about ourselves that are not just polar opposites anymore. And AA says, great show. Thank you, AA. It's great to have you here.
I
And
know.
the other thing the other thing I wanted to say about it was that, with this age of Pisces, what we do now impacts how we move into the age of Aquarius for our future generations. We live in this time where everything is instant, everything is now. And what we're needing to look at with this age of Pisces is expansion, this emotional expansion, not just for what we want emotionally, but for global, looking at the global aspect of how we feel, and tolerance being a key word that I like to use. And that's what we can then pass on moving into the age of Aquarius. When that occurs, then it's more about, well, that's fixed air. What is it that we need to fix in place in order to move forward? So that's kind of just like a very esoteric philosophical outlook on it, I suppose, as
I
opposed
love
to
it
what's
though.
happening with technology.
So how many of you know if you have Aquarius in your chart? Because the way that this is going to affect you will be different than how it affects other people depending on where Aquarius is in their chart. How many of you actually know where Aquarius lives in your chart? Because we are made of all the signs, but where does it lie in your chart? And if it's in
Absolutely.
your Mercury, is it in your Venus? Is it in your, well, we can't say Earth because this is from the aspect from the Earth, unless we live on Mars. And when that happens, I can't wait to see that astrology. That's going to be a
That just
total new.
does my head in. That just does my head in. The study that I've done just from Earth, and I'm still learning. We are always still learning. And I'll give an example about Aquarius. Emma Rose says, yay, the best show ever.
Yeah. All right.
Thank
And
you.
Allison says, I know nothing about my charts. Well, to get a chart rating done, it's really beneficial. So what lies in the stars doesn't necessarily mean that's your path. You have to do that, but it gives you the easier road versus taking all these dirt roads or side roads or mountain cliffs or whatever you're becoming the fool card and trying to just step and not think about what you're doing. This actually gives you an idea. As a matter of fact, Squirrel had looked at my chart, and I am living exactly what my chart had said. And the very first thing she read and she laughed. She said, "Talks to dead people." Ta-da! And you had a little chance to look at my chart. You haven't really gotten a chance to
Yeah, I haven't gone in. Not gone into it far enough where I feel I'm ready to talk about it yet. But I'm really excited to look and see what I can find your secrets. No,
right. And I have a question for the audience. How many of you guys would love to see once a month us break down a celebrity's chart so you can see what that celebrity's chart looks like and see their path? And by knowing who they are, and let's say you're a fan and you're following them and you know that their story, how they started to follow their chart, and you'll know that kings, queens, presidents, even dictators get their charts read so they know in that direction where they're going. So we're going to be doing that, a little bit of fun with that, and start looking at
even
queens.
Even the people we call so-called like evil, like Hitler, had his he believed in the occult. He had his own astrologer and psychic as well. Princess Diana had a psychic that she went to. It's just that you don't talk. A lot of the celebrities don't talk about it. Because they're fearful of being ridiculed, which is really a shame. But the other thing, and Emma Rose says, sure, why not? Why not? Why not?
Allison says, I hear people talking about their sun, moon, and rising. Yes.
Yes, they're three key elements in your chart. Alice says Nixon wife. I'll get you to explain that one to me, Jody, being in Australia.
I'm not sure what that one is, to be honest.
But
But
yeah, like it's so funny.
you were right. The celebrities, all these very big people, they have their own psychic. They have their own trusted person that they go to. And that's why when I tell people, hey, it's okay to have one or two advisors that you consult and really get, because the more the psychic gets the chance to connect with your energy, the faster they can read you, the stronger they can read you, more things start to pop up. You build that energy builds up between the two of you. I've got clients that I will send a message and just be like, what did you just do? And they're like, damn it, how can I not hide from you? I was like, we've been reading for 10 years together. I can feel everything you're not doing right. So that's what I gotta tell you. I've told people, don't buy that. And they're like, how the hell did you know that? I was like, really? How did I know? But that connection, it's amazing. And, even with your astrologer, you're going to be able to get a good path or maybe find a way. Some people, they feel like they're off the beating path. And
yes.
then,
and the other thing too is that when you look at, like, when we talk about birth chart or natal chart, we're talking about, the moment you were born and the location where you were born, the year you were born, and then that is what creates your birth chart for your lifetime. But what's fascinating about a birth chart, it's less about predicting a fortune. It's not fortune telling. It's more about how can you grow and develop. And this is a great thing for parents with kids. If you get your astrology chart done for your child, you will learn things like, what's the best way to communicate with them? How do they respond emotionally? What are their instinctual reactions to things? And so that can actually help with parenting skills, I found as well. When it comes to career, it can help see what your natural tendencies, what your natural attributes are to help you have a career. I'll use my own as an example. I have Sagittarius I have Sagittarius sun, but my sun is sitting in Capricorn, the 10th house. And the 10th house is about career, achievement, what you put out into the world. So I'm very open and expansive. But I also have Saturn there in that 10th house. And so when it comes to career, I need to have a job that gives me creativity, but I need to know my boundaries. So if I have a job that's all creative and no boundaries, I get lost, I get scattered. And then if I have a career where it's just all boundaries, do it this way or the highway, I don't get good at creative side as well. So it can offer so many insights. It's more about insights rather than predicting necessarily what will happen, because what will happen is a completely different form of astrology. It's called horary astrology. And Emma Rose says, how does Pluto moving into Aquarius affect someone like me who has a Capricorn moon? Well, Emma Rose, I would suggest that you need to get your whole chart done, because we need to know what other aspects of other planets are aspecting there,
right,
because that will create an influence and a flavor.
She says my sun and Saturn are both in my third house together, and they are both in Gemini. My sun is at 17 degrees as well.
So with sun and Saturn in Gemini, that's terrific. It gives base information. It gives a certain flavor. But in order to know how that affects you in other areas of your life, we then need to know what planets are connecting, what planets are squaring it, what planets are trining it, what planets are sextiling it, or are there no aspects at all? That all comes into part. And that's why I always encourage people to actually get their chart done in full, because it will go much deeper and it doesn't give you this little compartmentalized aspect of who you are, if that makes sense.
She says, right, makes sense. So that's why we were saying, if you guys post go to journeyryanlive.com/reviews and leave us some reviews on how you like the show, and give us a little bit of information. The person who's posting the most is going to win a chance to get their birth chart read right here. We're going to break it on down for you and give you guys an insight into your own chart. So we will be doing charts on here, and we will be able to do donated charts. That way you guys can take precedence over anybody else because you have donated for those charts. So, but we are going to be giving a few away and having a good time here and really dissecting some charts to give you guys an idea of what a chart reading is like.
And for
And
people
Emma
who've
says,
never seen a chart, this is what it looks like.
oh, hang on, let me put you on the big screen. And Emma says,
There you
yay,
go.
that's exciting.
That's
Let me put you on
exactly.
the big screen.
Yeah.
Big
If
screen.
you've never if you've never seen an astrology chart, let me get it in front of my face. That is what it looks like. You can see there are all these symbols, all these little lines. So there is so much in there that we can look at when you're doing your chart, as opposed to just the sun sign or just the moon sign. I'm not saying they're not important, they are, but it's how other planets affect them that makes you unique as well. Because everyone is unique.
And that's why I asked, where are people's planets and the thing and the thing and the thing, use the words journey. Aquarius. Where is Aquarius in your chart? Because that is definitely going to play a part with Pluto going into Aquarius. Now, mind you, we talked about that retrograde, so it is going to go back into Capricorn one more time before it fully moves into Aquarius and then does its 21 years. But this gives you an idea, as Innerji was pointing out, this gives you an idea of what it's going to be like in the age of Aquarius.
Yes, Pluto going into Aquarius is not the age of Aquarius. It's Pluto going into Aquarius. The age of Aquarius, look, it's really the age of Aquarius. The astrological ages are actually quite complex, and that is why the astrologers, we all don't have the same opinion. The one thing we all do agree on is that it starts at 0 degrees Aries in the tropical, which is a type of astrological chart system that we use to actually create charts. And what happens at that vernal equinox or the spring equinox around the 21st of March is the sun intersects. If you can imagine this is the Earth. That round ball of my hands is the Earth. We have the Earth's equator. Well, up in the sky, we have a representation of that equator as well. The Earth spins on its own axis. Now, it's got a wobble at the top, so it's not a direct spin, it wobbles. And so that affects how things change within the actual constellations. So we've got that one. Now we've got another one called the ecliptic. That is it's not quite a circle, it's more like an oval, I think, where that's the path of the sun through the zodiac. How do we get to the start of an age, an astrological age? It is when the celestial equator, as it's called, which is the Earth's rotation up in the sky, intersects with the sun's planetary path of the ecliptic, and that occurs at 0 degrees Aries. Now, there's lots of disputes around the timing of that when it first happened, and that depends on whether you are doing it from an astrological point of view or whether you're doing it from an astronomical point of view. They are actually two different creatures, and that's why there's a lot of confusion around the dates. And I still get confused by it. I'm still learning about it as well.
And, that's all we can do is continue to keep educating ourselves to get the understanding of what we need to learn and what people have been doing astrology for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Thousands, going way back to Plato and Babylonian, ancient Sumeria as well.
To do their charts. Could you imagine to do their charts?
Look, when I was a student, and Dee says, hey, Dee.
We're great today.
Look, we're in astrological party land.
Exactly.
And when I was a student, one of my heroes is Leonardo da Vinci.
Yes.
And I was very early in my studies, and I tied myself in knots trying to work out Leonardo da Vinci's actual birth date, because when Leonardo da Vinci lived, we were in a different calendar, and I always get the names of the calendars mixed up. I think we're Julian now or Gregorian. It was the other way around, and I tied myself up in knots trying to do it. That is how complex it is when we try and look back through the ages.
I do believe it's the Julian calendar now.
Yeah, I think, Julius Caesar.
Yeah.
And even the way the calendars were created, the calendars changed. Particularly during the time of the Caesars, the Roman Empire, the calendars were forever changing depending on who the emperor was at the time. So they kept changing the length of the months. At one time, it was, I think, 30 days and then 32 days. But at a whim, it's good to be the king kind of feeling, or in this case, it's good to be Caesar.
Right.
I'll change it to suit my reign. So calendars themselves are quite all over.
It was definitely a mess. They could do at what they wanted at their will, and then everybody just
Yeah.
had to agree to it.
Yes. Hail Caesar. Hail Caesar.
Exactly. But as I was looking on TikTok, and I'm interested to hear what anybody has to say, or to give people a chance to look at things from their perspective. The thing about it is that not enough there's not enough research going into this. They maybe hear something one person says and hear something someone else said, and they haven't done the math, or they haven't done the research, and you could tell that it's a little rusty, and you're just going, no, no. But I don't want to be like that person on their episode of whatever it is that they're talking about, and be like, that is incorrect.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy, but I can be that guy here because this is our show.
Yeah. There's an old saying, a little bit of information can be dangerous.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power.
And that's what I see a lot of. I see a lot of people grasping a little bit of information, but they're not diving deeply enough, because astrology, bless its cotton socks, is in depth. It's hard to learn sometimes. We've got all these layers. We have to learn about the houses, which are the areas of life. We have to learn about the signs. Most people are aware of at least their sun sign. Then we learn about all the different planets. And then we look at how all that fits together. And then if we want to go into the astrological ages, there's another layer. How does that fit? So we might be in the age of Aquarius in terms of this multi-generational thing, this epoch. But what else is happening as we go through all the years of that epoch in terms of, well, is Pluto affecting us now generationally?
Yes.
And then how are the social or the inner planets affecting us in our day-to-day lives? And let's face it, most of us want to know the little things, the day-to-day lives. How's it affecting me, as opposed to how will it affect us in 300 years? It's a sad case that we're like that, but that's part of our survival mechanism.
Yes, and it also makes us all different, so we're not all the same person.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being the same person everywhere? How crazy and how isolated we would all be from each other, because we would all have the same emotions at the same time. It would be a mess. It would be a mess.
From a fire sign who loves variety, it would also be boring. It's like, oh, well, I don't need to talk to you because I already know we're the same.
I already know. I know who you are.
Yeah.
I know how all you are.
Yeah. Instead, I say, vive la différence.
But since we've been talking about dwarf planets like Pluto, we also have another little marble in the sky that you wanted to talk about, as it's going into Leo, right?
The moon? Yes, the moon. So let's talk a little bit more about the moon in general. First of all, the moon goes through its phases. It takes about 29 and a quarter days roughly to go through the entire zodiac. So compare that to an astrological age, which takes thousands of years to go through the entire zodiac. So the moon is like those little things, the day-to-day things. It's about our emotions. The moon is also about our instinctual reaction to something as well. That's those automated actions that we do without thinking. Think about habits. You're watching a movie. Is your habit to grab a packet of chips and start munching while you're watching the movie, and you're not really aware that you're doing it? That's a habit. That's an instinctual reaction that we have created, and that kind of is what the moon is about as well, those instinctive reactions, fight, flight, freeze, all of that. But it's also the subconscious. It's also our subconscious being of ourselves as well. So now if we look at the moon in Leo, our innate reaction, particularly if you have moon in Leo in your chart, in your birth chart, our moon in Leo is we instinctually react by putting on a happy face no matter what's going on. I'm sad today. So that might be a Cancer energy. Sorry, Jenny. A Cancer energy might go, I'm sad today. A Leo energy might go, well, I'm sad, but nobody needs to know about it. I'm going to be up there. I'm going to be bubbly. I'm going to make it happen. So with this full moon in Leo, it's at its zenith. The moon only ever reflects light. It has no light of its own. So it is reflecting the light of the sun and the sun rules Leo. And so you're reflecting that light. And as Journey said the other week, and this is the first time I've heard this, and I've really been thinking long and hard about what you said, Journey, and I really love it, is that, you know, the sun is so much larger than the moon. And so we give all this to the moon, and rightly so, but also we have that sun influencing as well. And when they're in opposition to each other on opposite sides of the sky, we have this push-pull. Somebody was saying about, you know, the sun, moon, and ascendant, and the sun and moon, when we look in the sky, this is apparent, not actual. When we look in the sky, they kind of look roughly the same size. And so that's why, for the most part in astrology, we kind of give them equal weight, because everything in astrology is done from our perspective of looking at what we see in the sky. Because initially, astrology was done through observation in ancient times. So yeah, that's a little bit more about that. So it's a happy moon. Leo is a happy moon.
It is a happy moon, and with it being full in Leo and the sun being ruled by Leo, it's going to be a hell of a lot of power. Now, there's a happy. They, of course, all signs have both the happy and the. So you can also find those very strong impulse energies to even, let's say, produce anger and be on defense and feel like you got to attack. And so when you feel that, try to pull that happy energy into that, to try to kind of calm that down. But it can be very hard to do once you get into that emotion. And the reason the moon has such a strong effect on us is because the closest planet to us. Well, in this case, it's a moon, but it's the closest object to us. So it's going to have the most effect on us.
And it has a physical effect on us as well. We're anywhere between 50 and 70% water, depending on how old we are, our body makeup, all that kind of thing. And so the moon controls the physical tides of Earth. So we are water. So we are pulled with the moon as well. Many women during their cycle, if women live together, their cycles will sync, and so sync with the moon at different times as well. There's been a lot of research done into it, something I want to look into a lot more for the lovely ladies out there who want to use the moon as part of their womanly cycle, and see how they could use that to better effect. But the other thing about the moon is too, when it's full, it's at its climax, it's at its peak. People think the full moon is all about endings. The full moon is the beginning of endings, because then it starts to wane. In other words, the light starts to draw away, and we get the crescent moon, and then we come to the dark moon, or the new moon. So the full moon, if you want to use it for manifestation, at the new moon, you set your intention, and at the full moon, you then look at it and see what you have achieved, see where it's at, and then you can look at what it is that you want to release. Now, with the Leo full moon, this can be around social things. It can be around friendships. It can be around your children, because Leo is representative of children as well, because there's so much playful fun there. There are so many ways that you can utilize what we know about astrology in other ways beyond a natal chart. That's what I love about it.
Well, as you were saying, that new moon, and depending on what sign it is, you're going to see that new moon, whatever sign that is it's going to be at its purest. Let's say it's in Aquarius. We'll use Aquarius. We've been using Aquarius all night.
Yeah.
So if it's in Aquarius, you're going to feel that full Aquarius energy. Even though you may not see the moon, it is still there. It is still having an effect on you, but it is having an effect on you fully in that one sign.
Yes.
But as the sun starts to shine on it, it's going to be affected by whatever the sun is in. So if the sun is in, Cancer, if the sun is in Leo, if the sun is in, depending on what the sun is in, that's also going to play a factor on how it collides with whatever sign the moon is in. Because the moon is only in their signs 2 to 3 days, sometimes only 2.5 days. And so it changes so much.
Hess is being moody.
I wonder why they picked Cancer for that. I have no idea.
And
No, I
the
know,
other
I
thing,
know
and the other thing, based on what you were saying, Jenny, like the sun is in Aquarius at the moment, and we've
Mhm,
got Moon in Leo, so we've got this push pull between this fixed fire energy, which is the
mhm.
just go in there and do it and fix it and have fun while you're doing it, against the fixed air energy of Aquarius, where the sun is. And that's saying, yes, we need to be stable, but we need to think about it. We need to have our reasons for it. We need to use our logic. Whereas the moon in Leo, with that fixed fire, because they're both fixed energies, fixed on let's do it the best way. It's about the tribe. It's about my team. Let's do it together. So it's that
Absolutely.
push pull. That push pull.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you there. So I know that we've got a lot of things that we've covered so far, guys. Just let us know about some of the things that you may be seeing with this all this new energy coming in. And I can already tell the difference on the day of the 20th when it went into Aquarius. I saw a complete shift. It was extremely noticeable. Even though it was extremely noticeable, it is going to take its time to play out because we were just in the beginnings of it. But I could
Yeah.
definitely see a shift from Capricorn to Aquarius, and then it's going to shift back to Capricorn, which you're going to see another jolt. So it's going to be, I wouldn't say it would be a bad year because you're being yanked between the two signs, but it will be an interesting one.
Yeah, it's almost another type of push pull. It's almost like that, two steps. It seems like two steps forward. It seems like we're moving forward. Wow, we're going into this new, technology and
Yeah,
breakthroughs and scientific discoveries and all of that. But then going back into Capricorn, it's going, well, that's all well and good, but here's the tried and true. And so
exactly.
there's going to be resistance between the tried and true and this wanting to break out and do something new, try something new. That's the other thing that I'm seeing about this retrograde. But I actually don't necessarily think it's going to be a bad thing. It's going to feel uncomfortable, most definitely, because we want to go in that direction, and Capricorn's going back this way, please. But what it's giving us a chance to do is not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Let's look at Capricorn from the perspective of what is the foundation? What are the boundaries that we still need to have, rather than just going off on a tangent because it's something new, interesting, and transformative, which is Pluto in Aquarius, new, interesting, transformative. Capricorn helps us give our earth foundation to how we move forward. So I personally don't see this step back retrograde as necessarily anything really, really super negative. It's our attitude, it's our intention that makes something negative or positive, makes something that feels good or bad to us. So it's how you look at these retrogrades, how you look at these changes in astrology, moving from sign, moving into ages. You have the free will to choose how you will deal with it, how you will react to it, and how you can bring it into a day-to-day response. So I'm actually quite okay about this particular retrograde.
Same, same. And that rocking back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius helps us ease into Aquarius rather than just dropping us off and be like, good luck, everybody else. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's a good
yeah,
transition.
yeah. I'm gonna use a human being as an example.
Sure.
You're not just a baby, and then you're not just a teenager, and you're not just
Right.
an adult. You transition, you evolve. So think of it more that way, as an evolution. And then by we get to Aquarius, it'll be an intelligent revolution.
Absolutely. And I mean, and even with that revolution, we touched a little bit based on this. I think it was 2 episodes ago, and we were talking about the enterprises and how that's going to be affected. And as you currently see in today's, at the moment, you're seeing all these corporations, $1 million, $1 billion profits, way over the line. And what's going to happen is that the people are going to have enough. And in the age of Pluto going into Aquarius, that's what we'll call it, the age of Pluto's Aquarius,
Yeah.
um, they're going to see that the people are going to fight back. And
Yes.
unfortunately, fortunately for us, but unfortunate for the corporations, they're going to learn that they're not going to be able to keep living this way because people are going to take back their power.
And that's where the resistance will come in. The resistance is going to come from the big established corporations, because they are going to feel that their survival is being threatened by this new outlook and the power of people. But you know, if you look at civilizations throughout the centuries, throughout the millennia, each civilization comes to a peak and then it drops down. Think of Lemuria, think of Atlantis, if you are open to believing in the existence of those, shall I say, societies. The Greek culture, the Egyptians, you know, they were the sun at the height of their culture, and then it changed. And so astrology is a bit like that. With the ages of astrology, we go from one flavor of one sign through to the next. It's ever evolving, ever changing. And that's what makes it so interesting. You know, that I love the philosophy. It's the philosophy of it that I love. Well and truly. But does anyone have any? I'm just wondering if people got questions about Aquarius and their.
Absolutely. This would be the perfect time to throw out some questions. If you guys have any questions, that's why I said, guys, go ahead, be more motivated to communicate. We're ready and willing to go. Let's do this. Let's have some questions on how you feel about this new age that we're about to walk into. And you know, and it's not the age of Aquarius, but we are feeling the Aquarius power from Pluto. So, and we touched a lot of base on that. So if you guys haven't got a chance to watch that, you can always go back on YouTube and watch this and hear what we had to say, and go back to two episodes back, I believe, where we talked about where Pluto was and the whole breakdown of that. It was really good conversation. It was absolutely amazing. You guys jumped in. It was so great. But so,
and what's really
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what's really interesting about Pluto is it was only discovered in, what was it? Oh, I'm going blank. 1940 something.
40, yeah, I think it was 1943 or 46.
Yeah, I can't remember now. But it's a very new planet, and it was actually originally a planet. But the astronomers or the astrophysicists of the modern era decided it wasn't big enough to be a planet, so they reduced it to a dwarf planet. But the interesting thing about these modern planets, as I like to call them, so that's Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, astrology worked for many thousands of years without the addition of those planets. So I know people get caught up about their Pluto being here in their chart and their Neptune being there. Understand that this energy is generational. It doesn't necessarily affect you day to day. It's the global, it's the big stuff. It's over years, you know, with Pluto's 248 years to go all the way around the zodiac. So you're not going to see it in some signs, you know, depending on where it's at and how old you are. So understand that these really exoplanets, as I call them, and I think a few other astrologers call them that, these really strong exoplanets are a modern addition to the traditional form of astrology. So I must admit, when I am looking at a natal chart, I don't give them as much credence, I don't give them as much weight as the other 7 traditional planets. So I hope that made sense for people as well, because it can be confusing for people. It can be really confusing for them.
Emma says, what changes in society given Pluto's transition into Aquarius? And that's funny you ask, because we did touch base on that, and we were talking about as we were just talking about the corporations losing their power on the people, and the first group of people that came into that would be those who live in China, as they are one of the world's largest producers and manufacturers of products. Their people would finally get tired of being treated a certain way, and Aquarius energy is going to give them that strength to recognize that they are being mistreated and that they won't stand for it no more. And so that was where I saw that started. But given that they are the largest manufacturer, this means that the corporations are going to lose their hold on that as well. So this is where you're going to see a lot of change, where people are going to try to take back their power. They're not going to be so open to just allowing things to happen or going, well, that's just the way things are. No, they're going to start strategizing. They're going to start seeing their way in and their way out. How do I get into this? How do I get out of this? So they're really going to, in that back and forth with Capricorn, Capricorn's really going to help them in that plan, because they're great strategists as well, and they're great with finances. They're great about taking care of oneself and not doing so emotionally, not using their emotions as a way to control themselves. So I mean, that was part of it. So I mean, there is going to be a lot of changes that are coming just in society in that way. But as you guys see, we've got war going on, things like that. There's going to be new strategy changes, even with things like that. And you know, I've seen a lot of people going, World War III is about to start. Not necessarily, because there are ways in and there are ways out. It's just depending on what they choose and who's at the helm.
And the other thing I wanted to say about that is don't forget free will.
Exactly.
Don't forget free will. The people who are in power, for want of a better term, who have been making these decisions, they have free will to make different decisions. And my wish, my hope, as we move through these next 21 years or so of Pluto being in Aquarius, that the powers that be at the moment will start to make different decisions based on the overall needs of the people with whom they are supposed to be supporting, governing, looking after, as opposed to, shall we say, building their own internal power so that they can get elected again, that kind of thing. And I sort of hope, my wish and hope is that the changes will slowly happen. Remember, we've got Pluto in Aquarius for 21 years or so. It's not like it's going to change overnight. It's not instant. It's going to be a gradual change. And then coming back into Capricorn, we step back into the old way of being, and then it will start to move forward again. But we're not necessarily going to see this outcome in our lifetime. We will start to see some changes. We'll start to see, if you like, the birthing of new ways of being, perhaps, but we're not going to see the final outcome. And don't forget, after the age of Aquarius, which happens around about, I don't know, 2160, something like that, then we move back into Capricorn again.
Yeah.
The age of Capricorn. So can you see how everything is about expansion and contraction? If we expand too far, and this is just plain common sense, if something expands too far, it has to contract to balance itself out. It's how far we push things one way or another way that makes the difference in how we manage that balance. So what I'm hoping, no, I'm not going to say hoping, I am going to put the intention and energy out there that as we move through Pluto in Aquarius, that we have set this intention that it's not just about power to the people. It's not just about fighting and protesting about nothing just because you're cranky and upset about, you know, a tax cut that didn't happen or something. This is about taking a stand about how you want things to be. We all have our own internal power. We are more powerful than we realize. And the word power is so misused. Power does not mean imposing upon someone else. It means standing up for you and the greater good. And that's probably a very simple way of saying
it. I love that. That was great. That was beautifully said. And
you can tell I get enthusiastic.
No, not at all. Not you. Emma, that was a really great question. I appreciate that question.
Thank you so much.
Questions who was here interacting with us, but Innerji, we have run out of time. This show just flies by.
I know we could go easily another hour and still not be tired.
I'm telling you, we could go on for hours. We could go on for hours. But guys, thank you guys so much for being here and being a part of our show. Skwirl will be returning, so she'll be back next week with us. But if you're missing Skwirl, you can catch her tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern. She's going to be whispering from the forest, giving you guys some amazing readings. So if you guys are looking for a great read, make sure you check out that show. It's at 10 p.m. Eastern, Whispers from the Forest with Psychic Skwirl. And right before that show, you're going to be able to go down the rabbit hole with Bunny Sugars at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then if you're interested in your dreams and you would like to know a little bit more about the dreams that you have, we have our dream interpretation show called The Shadows of Dreams. So that way you guys can get a better understanding about the dreams that you're having that you didn't understand, or see a perspective that you weren't expecting.
And I swear that you and Psychic K, when you do the dream interpretations, it's
Yeah.
like you're literally in each other's heads. It's incredible to watch.
We giggle every time we realize we're doing it. We're like, oh, damn it, she said it before I could. Then I do it to her. That's why we switch back and forth to find out who's got it, who's going to go first this time. So we have a great time on that show. And, it gives us an opportunity to really help you dissect and understand, because a lot of people think that if you get a dream book, that's what it means, but that isn't what it means. Everything means something different to other people. So, what does certain things mean to you? So, check out that show. That's at midnight tomorrow night, just like we were here at midnight tonight doing the astrology breakdown. I almost called it Astro Breakdown, but that's Squirrel's other name, Astro Squirrel. And, but guys, make sure you guys are checking us out, and make sure you guys are checking out them shows. We love you. We are going to say goodnight. And Innerji, this has been a blast.
I've had so much fun. I really have. And thank you to everyone for being here. I absolutely love your questions and interaction.
Absolutely. Well, from everyone here at My Psychic Connection, we want to say thank you so much. Have a great night, and we will catch you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern with Down the Rabbit Hole. Bye.